Welcome to Polaris-Live. This is your host, Sarwar Kashmiri, thanking you for joining us for today's discussion in our series focused on the U.S.-China relationship and its global implications, as seen through the eyes of experts from around the world. This user-supported channel is brought to you live in conjunction with the Foreign Policy Association of New York. If you have questions for today's guest, please feel free to submit them using the bar on the right-hand side of the screen. After the live event, you can also listen to these programs on your favorite podcast platform. A reminder, Polaris Live is a non-commercial, user-supported channel. You are the reason we are here. Your support is vital to our work and is the reason we can continue to produce our unbiased, cutting-edge discussion of the most consequential relationship in the world. Please go to my website, kashmiri.com, to subscribe and show your support. Thank you. Just a few decades ago, North Korea had no nuclear warfighting capability, no bombs, no missiles. In spite of international opposition, now it has both nuclear weapons and long-range missiles to target cities from Asia to Washington, D.C. This is a very dangerous development, equally lethal for both China and the United States. What is North Korea's strategy going forward? To help us think through these contentious and difficult to grasp issues, we are joined today by Professor Yangmo Ku from Norwich University, who has a deep understanding of Korea and its mercurial leader. Dr. Ku is Professor of Political Science and Associate Director of the Peace and War Center at Norwich University. He received his BA in German Language and Literature from Sogang University and earned his MA and Ph.D. from George Washington University. Dr. Ku's research focuses on North and South Korean politics, East Asian security, U.S. foreign policy, and reconciliation in East Asia and Europe. He has frequently been invited to deliver intensive lectures on North Korean nuclear issues, the Korean Peninsula, politics to U.S. federal government officials, and Washington, D.C. His new book, sure to become another bestseller, is Nuclear North Korea, Strategy and Practice from the Korean War to the New Cold War. It was published in April 2026. Welcome to Polaris Live, Dr. Ku. So glad to have you with us.
Hi, Sawa. Thank you for having me.
Listen, your new book seems perfectly suited to help policymakers with a potential flashpoint. Give us a synopsis. Tell us why you decided to write the book now.
Yes, just obviously, this book is about how to analyze the complexities of the North Korean nuclear and the missile challenges. I think the American scholars and the second generation Korean scholars, they have written the articles and books about this issue. But as a first generation Korean scholars who lived in South Korea and the United States, half and half in my life. So just I can have a more balanced kind of the view and analysis of this very important topic. Actually, the one thing I want to say is that in 1993 to 1995, while I was serving as a South Korean soldier, South Korean army, so at the time, the first nuclear crisis, North Korean nuclear crisis erupted. And just I remember that so many my colleagues and the soldiers, we were scared about the possible eruption of the Second Korean War. But so since that time on, I have been closely following up with what has been going on in North Korea, and especially about the North Korean nuclear weapon issues. So it is really important project to have comprehensive analysis of these very complicated issues and topics.
Now, Yangmo, your understanding of North Korea's weapons capability is really, really something to be admired with. From your opinion, or in your opinion, can they really drop a bomb in Washington, D.C., or is this an issue that the media is hyping up?
Yeah, just as we know, North Korea has conducted 6 nuclear tests. So it is widely well known fact that the North Korea has developed nuclear capabilities and nuclear weapons. So in addition to that, North Korea has been making a lot of efforts to create delivery vehicles, the missiles. So the ballistic missiles. So starting with the short range missiles to the medium range, intermediate range missiles, and eventually intercontinental ballistic missiles. I think around 2017, North Korea completed the developing the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can theoretically deliver nuclear warhead to any area of the United States. So
Wow.
at this point, just the one last technical kind of hurdle North Korea has to overcome is kind of the creating the reentry vehicle. When blast missiles are tipping with a nuclear warhead, it has go outside of the atmosphere and then come into the atmosphere to hit targets. So at that moment, the nuclear warhead has to endure the high heat and the severe vibrations. So North Korea has not the ICBM test with at the normal angle of firing. So that has not been confirmed. But I think that many scholars and many experts, I also believe that the North Korea has that kind of capacity to deliver nuclear ICBMs to United States.
And so you're thinking, Professor Ku, that they have, in fact, resolved this reentry problem?
So I think that has not been tested. So they have been, I think, have been making every effort to just overcome that hurdle. But as I said, the to confirm that technology and so they have to they have to conduct the testing
Hmm.
by firing the ICBMs at a normal angle. But usually they just test using the high angle, high altitude kind of firing. So that reentry vehicle that has not been confirmed at this point.
And what will tell us that they have indeed perfected the technical ability to do that? Would that be US tracking of their tests, or will they announce it? What do you think?
So can you say again, Sawar?
How will we be able to confirm whether they have overcome the re-entry problem? Will they make an announcement, or will the American military be able to track it and confirm? I know you know that this is a sheer guess, but it's an informed guess on your part.
Yeah, so once again, I think if they conduct test firing by firing the projectile at a normal angle someday, so
Right.
if that is successful, that is firmly confirmed. I mean, just the South Korean military forces and U.S. forces, the stationed on South Korean soil, I think they can detect that obviously. So until that moment, I mean, that can be somewhat ambiguous.
Do you think the threat from North Korea is an issue where the US China relationship could move from rivalry to help resolve a dangerous situation together and maybe thaw some of the friction between us? Or do you think China really doesn't see North Korea as big a threat as America does?
Yeah, so like the how can I say that in the short-term perspective, obviously China does not regard the North Korean nuclear weapons an immediate threat to
Ah.
China. So as we see, the North Korea's trade dependence on Japan is almost more than the 98%. So the North Korean economy is almost fully dependent upon the Chinese support and that trade between those two nations. Also, historically, the China and North Korea, they were ally. So China has been working as a patron state to North Korea. And yeah, there must be a lot of ups and downs between that relationship. But China does not, I think China does not regard North Korea as an immediate threat. But in the long-term perspective, as we know, China has many nuclear weapon states sharing borders, like Pakistan and Russia, right, and India, and
Indeed.
then just North Korea as well. So obviously, China does not want North Korea to be full-fledged nuclear power. That's obvious fact. So in the long-term perspective, where if China try to dominate Indo-Pacific area as a hegemonic power, so North Korea can be unruly nations, so which can be headache to China because of North Korea's nuclear capabilities. So China has kind of mixed feelings and approaches to North Korea.
I was in Beijing just a few days before President Trump came there. And I read the papers extensively, the English papers. There seemed to be no mention of the nuclear issue. To your knowledge, did the two presidents, Xi and Trump, discuss North Korea and the nuclear threat at the summit, Yangmo?
I think I saw a few the media outlet which addressed some contents of the President Trump and Xi kind of dialogues, and they talk about North Korea and the nuclear issue and denuclearization efforts and all those things. But in reality, it seems really hard for those two nations, the two superpowers, to address North Korean nuclear weapon issues at this point. First of all, the U.S. is distracted by many geopolitical challenges, as we see in the Middle East, and it's continuing the Russian-Ukrainian war, and just also the U.S. Has focused on the Western Hemisphere in terms of its foreign policy and geopolitical kind of the policies. So I think U.S. has distractions. And also, the China, Russia, their attitude toward North Korean nuclear weapons have been really changed. So rather than pressuring North Korea to denuclearize the nation, I mean, Russia is a kind of openly support North Korea's nuclear status. And China, right, does not openly support that, but tacitly, China just tended to support North Korea nuclear weapon status at this point. So I think China and the United States, they have a very diverging interest with respect to the North Korean nuclear weapon issues right now. So especially under the ongoing U.S.-China strategic rivalry, it seems really challenging for the two nations to address this issue in an effective way. As we know, until 2017, the China and Russia, they joined UN Security Council, the resolutions and sanction regimes to exert pressure on North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons and nuclear capabilities. But after that time, right, going through the pandemics and all Ukrainian war and Iranian war right now, I think many different kind of aspects have changed.
It's so difficult to get into the mind of North Korea's leader, as you know better than most people. I was wondering, and that's why I wanted to ask you, Young Mo, that just last month, North Korea dropped its 70-year-old policy of someday uniting the country, North and South Korea. It dropped that and said, no, we are now an independent country, North Korea. And a lot of people were surprised. What's happening there?
Yeah, actually, that kind of statement and then declaration saying that the South Korea is a separate nation, obviously, also
Yes.
the most hostile nation toward North Korea. That happened in December 2023. So the Kim Jong-un declared that, and then since that time on, a lot of kind of actions have been taking place. So for instance, he removed a lot of North Korean agencies, which have worked for future peaceful unification rhetorically, and he just eliminated those agencies. Also, he eliminated like symbols and monuments endorsing the unification with South Korea. So I think even the North Korea, the revised constitution, to remove all those discourse or terms about unification or same nation and all those kind of components. So that's very unfortunate kind of direction North Korea has been going. I think why the North Korea has been doing that, I think many scholars can think differently, but I think the main reason is that because of North Korea's domestic situations. So as we might know, a lot of like South Korean, the cultural kind of influence and information has been flowing into North Korean society, especially the young generations in North Korea. They have been exposed to the South Korean, the K-pops and K-dramas and K-beauty and a lot of kind of South Korean way of speaking and all those things. So I think in terms of from the dictator's perspective, Kim Jong-un's perspective, it is really important to maintain the control of North Korean people and society. But because of that, South Korean, the cultural influence into the North Korean society, so it has been really challenging for Kim Jong-un to maintain its absolute rule of North Korean people. So I think he tried to cut off all those possible connections between those two nations because of that reason. So I think that's a primary reason. But secondary and tertiary reason might be, I think in the future, if North Korea has the chance to attack South Korea or whatever reasons, so it is a kind of justifiable for North Korea to attack South Korea under this kind of ideological stance. So South Korea is like the most hostile nation, enemy state. So it is not violating the norms or rules in the case.
That's very interesting. But do you think that this might suggest that America's pledge to defend South Korea can now be relaxed a little bit, or there's no connection between the two?
Uh, I mean, obviously the North Korean leaders, especially Kim Jong Un, has been closely watching over the strength of U.S. South Korea alliance system. So
Right.
especially under the second Trump administration, the U.S. ROK alliance has been a little bit loosening because of President Trump's like a transactional approaches to the alliance and allied relationship, and about that because of that. But still, I think, as we know, the 28,000 the U.S. troops are stationed on South Korean soils, and so a lot of kind of U.S. military assets are deployed on the South Korean soil. So anytime based upon U.S. South Korea alliance agreement, the U.S. forces can be deployed to support and defend South Korea from the North Korean attacks. So I think, right, even though the U.S. ROK alliance has been loosened, but still the North Korea cannot dare to take just the military actions against South Korea because of the presence of the United States there.
So, what do you think should worry U.S. officials more, uh, Dr. Ku, a nuclear North Korea or the collapse of the North Korean regime?
Yeah, I mean, the obviously nuclear North Korea, as I initially talk about, theoretically, the North Korea has developed its capability and capacity to attack the United States with the nuclear weapons and ICBMs. So obviously, that's the biggest threat. But when we think about the North Korean regime collapse, so over the past 3 decades, I have
Right.
been closely watching over that kind of discourse taking place, circulating among the policymakers and the pundits and scholars in the United States, and even in South Korea in the international community. North Korea has been showing very resilience. So in 1994, when, for example, in 1994, the summer, when the Kim Il Sung died, so at the time, so many pundits and people, even U.S. policymakers, President Clinton and U.S. congressmen, they have strong kind of belief that the North Korean regime will collapse
Right.
soon. So because of that, even under agreed framework, uh, the North Korea and the United States concluded in October 1994. So the U.S. policymakers have not abiding by the kind of the promises they made in that agreement because of that kind of forced expectations. So North Korea was really resilient. Yeah, even though North Korea experienced like a the unprecedented famine, about 1 million to 3 million, the North Korean population perished because of the famine
Wow.
in the mid and late 1990s. So many people believe that North Korea cannot sustain the nation and the regime. Even just the Soviet Union betrayed North Korea, even China betrayed North Korea. So many people believe that, but North Korea survived. And even in 2011, in December 2011, when Kim Jong-il died, so
Yes.
again, many pundits and policymakers and people believe that North Korea will collapse. 27 years old at the time, Kim Jong-un took over the power. How that young man can, without having any military background and governmental kind of positions and the very weak ruling legitimacy. So obviously, many people believe that North Korea will collapse. But obviously, amazingly, North Korea was very resilient, and Kim Jong Un, right? Initially, it was a shaky. The power base was shaky, but using the just the purges and very like using the Byungjin policy, simultaneous development of nuclear weapons and economy, and over the past 15 years, the North Korea, I mean Kim Jong Un, has been consolidating his power base right now. So considering all those factors, even during pandemic, think about it. I mean, the North Korea has been experiencing the very unprecedentedly harsh international sanctions,
Yes.
economic sanctions over the past 7 decades since 1950s Korean War. The North Korea survived. Also, during pandemic season, the North Korea shut off its borders completely. So almost from January 2020 to August 2023, all borders shut down. So many people believe that North Korea cannot survive. It's really hard to survive
Indeed.
economically,
Indeed.
but North Korea became stronger right now. I mean, because of Russian support and Russia-North Korea strategic partnership. So I think the discourse about the North Korean regime collapse is kind of wishful thinking.
Listen, that just brings up a question that's been rattling through my mind for a long time. A little bit provocative, but let me ask it anyway. So we have all these think tanks in Washington. We have all these brilliant people who, make strategy and grand strategy and think through all these issues. And we've had, going back 3 decades, 4 decades, Republican presidents, Democratic presidents. Nothing has made a difference to North Korea's march towards a deliverable nuclear weapon and the ability to deliver it. So, had this whole apparatus in Washington failed to do what should have been done?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I don't want to say that all those efforts have been absolute failure. So when we look at think about the Clinton administration from the 1993 to 2000, so there was a the first nuclear crisis, which happened in 1993 and 4. The President Clinton was considering the preemptive strikes on North Korea at the time, but that didn't happen. Long story short, the agreed framework, Geneva Framework Agreement, that was concluded in October 1994. So up until October 2002, when second nuclear crisis took place, so that agreed framework, even though that was flawed, even though that was slowed, that worked. So which means that the North Korean nuclear activities, the plutonium-based nuclear activities, were frozen. So that diplomatic efforts slowed down North Korea's nuclear weapons development. The second example is that even during the Bush administration, after the second nuclear crisis, the six-party talks was initiated in 2003. Just up until 2008, when that six-party talks terminated, like Russia, China, Japan, South Korea, North Korea, and the United States, they made a lot of efforts to put cap or constraints on North Korean nuclear capabilities. So they made some agreements. So 2005, like a September 19th statement they made, and then the subsequent kind of implementation phases, plans they created. So North Korea, like symbolically, they exploded cooling tower, and even just they, even though that was flawed, they just declared or revealed nuclear records and activities and all those things. So partial kind of accomplishment was made, but eventually, because of the verification issues, disagreement over verification issues, that agreement didn't work eventually. So what I'm saying is those diplomatic efforts made some kind of accomplishment to slow down North Korea's nuclear and missile development. But because of many different kinds of factors. So one factor is that, as you mentioned, like President Clinton and President Bush and Obama and Trump, Biden. So one key example is that in 1999 and 2000s, so I believe, and many people believe that was very critical moment for U.S. and North Korea to reach rapprochement. So as you might remember, the Jo Myung-nok, North Korean, the top military leader, visited White House, and then the former state secretary, the Albright, visited Pyongyang to meet Kim Jong-il, and so they just created and issued the U.S. North Korea communique as well. So on the last minute of President Clinton administrations, so North Korea and the United States, they were very close to the diplomatic normalizations. So I mean, like long story short, the William Perry and Perry process and all those things worked to reach that level. But as soon as the President Bush took the power, I think U.S. policy toward North Korea dramatically changed. So as you remember, North Korea was considered as one axis of evil.
Yes.
So with Iran and Iraq. So since the time of, I mean, U.S. North Korea relationship got soured and deteriorated, and so hostiles and all those relationships pop out. So right, I mean, mixed kind of evaluations we can make.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people in Washington are saying, saved by Yangmo Ku. So thank you for that explanation. As we run out of time, I have to ask you this question. And I thought about whether I should, I shouldn't, but I decided I'm going to. So there's a lot of speculation that Kim Jong-un's daughter is his appointed successor. I mean, when he visited Beijing to meet with President Xi Jinping, she was there. Do you believe that? And I would love to have your guess as to how old you think she is.
Yeah, so who can clearly say that Kim Ju-ae, the Kim Jong-un's daughter, will succeed the power in the future? Nobody can clearly say that. But just based upon my educated guess, that can be possible. So as we know, that she's about like 13 and 14 years old girl.
Really?
So she's the age attending the middle school right now. I think she just love the beauty stuff and all those, the friendship and all those things. So to a certain extent, it's very unfortunate for her to play that kind of role in North Korean politics and all those just external exposure and whatever. But one thing I want to lastly mention is that it would not be easy for her to take over power. So in the case of the Kim Jong-un's sudden death or all those, there must be institutional mechanism for North Korea to succeed power. So when we look at the 1994 and 2011, the previous two power transitions, the North Korea has that kind of institutional mechanism, I believe. But as a young girl, so if she took over the power, wow, what kind of challenges he's going to face. I mean, his father, when he was 27, he took over the power. It was really challenging, even though there was a successful in retrospect. But there must be power struggle between her and the Kim Jong-un's the powerful sister, Kim Yo-jong. And so who knows?
Who knows?
But hopefully that doesn't happen. So it's
13.
too unfortunate to North Korean people.
13 to 14 years old. I think that's the making of a great movie here, Yangmo. We have to talk some more about that. Listen, we have to leave it there. I could talk all day, but we've run out of time. And before my producer gives me a red flag, I have to say goodbye. And thank you for helping us look through this Korean dilemma. And I hope you will come back to see us again. And really, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you, Sawar. Thank you for giving me this great opportunity.
Well, thank you also to our viewers from around the world. Join us again on Polaris-Live.com as we continue to explore the most consequential relationship of our time, that between the United States and China and its impact on the world. Join us again 2 weeks from now. Until then, goodbye.